Well, I'm glad that you're here this morning. Hopefully you've enjoyed the little bit cooler weather rather than sweating all the time every day. So this has been a little bit nice. Actually, it's been a lot nice. It's been a relief, honestly. How many of you have turned on your furnace yet? Anybody? No? Good, you're tough. You're Michiganders, right? Yeah. Maybe next week we'll have some people that'll have turned on their furnace by then. I thought about it a couple times. First thing in the morning, I'm like, oh, that's a little... No, we gotta go without. Well, imagine the following scenarios. Have you ever experienced any of these before, right? Okay, think about this. Put it this way. You have a friend at work, or if you're in school, guys, some of you still in school, work, school, wherever, and you have this friend. You got to know them over the course of the weeks or years, even months. And every day at the same time, you go, you meet for lunch, and you get to know this person. And then on your lunch break, maybe you eat a little bit, but then you go out and you go for a walk. There's a park nearby, or maybe you're out at school and recess. I don't know, do they have recess anymore? Austin, do you guys still have recess at school? Yeah. No more recess. Oh, man. High school, yeah. Yeah. Well, let's say you go out, there's a nearby park, and every day at lunch, at the same time, you go out and you go for a walk at the park. And you just sit there and you chat as you're walking and you're talking. And this person you've gotten to know, and they kind of share their day and you share your day. And then as you're walking, you go, just enjoy your day. And then you go back about your normal day and then your routine. And then the next day you come and you see them again and you walk and talk and share. Well, then one day, this goes on as normal, but then one day you show up and you're ready to meet this person that you've been hanging out with. You would consider them a friend, actually. You've gotten pretty close. But you go to look for this friend, and all of a sudden your friend is not there. They are not at the normal spot where you would meet them. And you go, well, that's odd. Normally they're here. And I always see them at this spot at this time. So you send them a quick text. You know this person, and you shoot them a quick text on the phone. And that's odd. They don't respond. And you wait a beat. You wait a minute or two, nothing. And so you give them a quick call, and you call them on the phone, and then what happens? They don't answer. It goes straight to voicemail. And you go, well, that's really weird. What's going on? So you wait 5 minutes, and you don't see them, and you call again. They don't answer. And so now you wait 10 minutes, and then you're like, well, I guess they're not here today. I guess something's going on. So you decide to go for a walk without them. And so you walk down your normal route, and then just as you round the corner, you should happen to see your friend from work. And they see you, and they get like a surprised look on their face, and all of a sudden, they run away. Not really run, depends on how old you are. If you're a kid, they run. If you're an older person, they walk quickly and they avoid you. And you go, what is going on? Well, that doesn't make any sense. They take off, but it's obvious that they are hiding from you and they don't want to talk to you. How do you feel? How do you feel right in that moment? Second scenario, I want you to think about this. Maybe your neighbor, you have a neighbor, and they have a major project. They have something going on in their life. There's something wrong. Maybe their car is broken, and you can see the hood is up, and they got everything torn apart, and you happen to be a mechanic, right? And you know how to fix this car, right? Or let's say it's not that. Maybe let's say their rain gutters have fallen down, and they're all laying on the ground, and it's all broken, and you happen to install rain gutters for a living. Or you happen to see on Facebook that your neighbor, their child is failing 7th grade math, and you happen to be a 7th grade math teacher, right? Whatever it is that they need, you have the skills and the ability, and you can help them, okay? And so you go to your neighbor, whether you're a nurse and it's a medical issue or landscape, whatever it is, and you go to this person, your neighbor, and you say, hey, I noticed you got this issue. Maybe you shared it on Facebook. Maybe you can see it. And guess what? I can help you fix that, and I will help you do it for no charge. And I'll just be glad to help you out. And so you make that offer of help. And what do they say? No thanks. What? I can fix it. I know how to do this. I know I can take care of this. And they go, no, actually, can you just leave me alone, please? You go, what? I can help you. And you go, do you have somebody else to help you? No. Are you paying someone? No. Just get away from me. Wow. How do you feel? That's pretty rude, don't you think? And they've rejected you, and not a fun thing. Or how about this? Here's another good one. You work up the courage. There's a party, and it's karaoke night. All right? How many of you sing karaoke? Have you ever sung karaoke before? Yeah? Okay. So you finally, maybe this is the first time you've ever sung karaoke, and you have worked up the courage and the nerve, and you're ready to go sing some karaoke. And you get up on the stage, and you start singing, right? And instead of people looking up, and they're smiling, and like, oh, right, and they're kind of, like dancing around. I don't know how to dance, but, they're into it. Instead, what do you see? They frown. And then they just start talking to their neighbor, right? And they keep giving you disgusted looks while you're singing. How does that, right? And then they're like, and then they just cover their ears so that they can talk to the person. And they're just talking louder while you're trying to sing a song. And you're like, oh, this is not good. And at the end, you get done, crickets. You hear a single guy go, oh. And then all of a sudden, everyone just keeps talking to each other. No clapping, no anything. And he goes, ooh, that did not go well. They clearly did not like what I had to sing. How about this? You decide to have a party, right? Big party, it's your birthday, and you got a big celebration. And so you send out all these invitations, right? You have your house all fixed up. You've been cleaning for weeks, and you've got it catered even. In fact, you said, I want to just spend all my time with my guests. I don't want to have to be worrying about food, so I'm just going to pay and have it catered. And you got some people coming to take care of that. You've got entertainment, and you've sent out the invitations well in advance. It's not like there were conflicts. You've done this months in advance. And then the time comes closer, and you've spent all this money on food and decorations, and you've invited everyone you know, all your friends, all your relatives, all your coworkers, everyone that could possibly come that you personally know, and the night of the party shows up, and it arrives, right? All of a sudden, your phone starts to ring, and texts start to come in. And what do they say? Ooh, I can't make it. I can't make it. I'm sorry, I got something going on. Well, what do you got going on? Oh, I just can't make it. I got too much stuff going on. What? Well, I got to walk my dog. What? That doesn't make it. What? You got to walk your dog? You've known about this for months. Yeah, but he's really fussy, and I got to take him out for a walk. The excuses are weak. Oh, I got to wash my hair. Couldn't you do that earlier? No, I got to wash my hair. I'm tired. I'm just tired. I really can't. I don't feel like going out right now. And so you sit there, and you've got all the party favors and the food ready and everything, and you got a big empty house, and no one shows up. How do you feel? Right in that moment. Rejected. Right? Yeah, those are the scenarios we're talking about. Rejection. So today I want to start a new series, and it's called Tough to Handle. And these are about the things in life that are really difficult to handle. Things in life that are just not easy, life lessons. And the one for today is rejection. How do you handle rejection? It's a difficult situation. In life there are some things, little kids, that you learn, where you learn for the first time that the girl that you kind of liked, and you wrote a little note to her and says, hey, will you go out with me? I don't know what they call it nowadays. Will you talk to me? I don't know. What is it? I don't know. What is it when you ask a girl to go out with you? You're like, I don't know. I'm not saying. Yeah, texting, talking, whatever it was. Well, it was go with back when I was a kid. And you say, do you like me? And you send a note, and then she writes back, no. You're like, well, that did not go well. Rejection. There's other things that we need to learn in life, like losing at a game or something. You know, you play a game like of Risk. When I was a little kid, I played Risk. You remember that conquest game? And my dad always beat me when I was a little kid, and I would cry, right? Or you would lose at Monopoly, and you're like, oh, and you can't handle it. It's losing, and it's so tough to take. As we get older, there are certain lessons in life, things in life that are difficult and that we need to learn. And one of them is rejection. And that's what we're going to talk about today. In the future, we'll talk about maybe lessons of loss, maybe lessons of disappointment. How do you handle disappointment? How do you, delayed gratification? But today, we're really going to focus on rejection, okay? And it can be crushing as a child, but guess what, kids? It's crushing for adults, too. When somebody rejects you, it does not feel good. It feels pretty bad, actually. And if you or I do not learn how to handle these situations, how to handle it when someone rejects you, then we're going to have difficult times in life. It can have major negative impacts on our life. If we allow rejection or the fear of rejection to harm us, to hurt us, to control our lives, you're going to miss out on life. So today, let's start with a fear of rejection. What is rejection, right? And we're going to get to the Bible. Don't worry about that. If you think I'm just talking psychology and stuff like that, no, this is in the Bible. But what are we doing? Rejection, the fear of rejection. What is rejection? Well, really, it's someone, when you think about it, it's someone not wanting you or to spend time with you, or maybe it's not wanting what you have to offer. Maybe they think your ideas are bad. Maybe they don't want to listen to what you have to say. Whatever it is, just, you put yourself out there, you work up your courage, got a little social anxiety, and instead of going, oh, that's really cool, wow, you did a great job, you hear nothing or no thanks. I'm not really interested in being your friend. I don't want to spend time with you. Or worse yet, leave me alone. Don't talk to me. I don't want to hear from you. Or nothing. They ignore you. Being rejected feels bad, doesn't it? How does it feel to be rejected? Does anybody like being rejected? No? I don't either. It's when you have a great idea at work and nobody likes it, and it can feel crushing, and we naturally want to avoid it. But I'm going to suggest that being rejected is not the worst thing in the world, right? Being rejected is not the worst thing in the world that can happen to you. And actually, when we're afraid of rejection, it causes problems. It can give us difficulties and tough things in life. So just being afraid of rejection can lead you into some major problems. And I have at least 3 reasons this morning, first of all, as we look at this, 3 reasons why we should not be afraid of being rejected by people, okay? So whatever that is, right, whatever rejection looks like in your life, don't be afraid of it. You say, well, that's easy for you to say. No, it's not, honestly. Actually, it's really tough, and that's why I'm preaching on it, because it is difficult. It's probably one of my most difficult things to handle in life, personally. And you think, well, Pastor, you're up on stage, you talk to people, right? And you teach, and you don't seem like you're afraid of anything. Well, that's not true. I actually take it personally. I have a hard time being rejected, and I have a hard time dealing with it. Typically, my response is going to be anywhere from sadness, depression, all the way to anger. If I invite somebody to go do something and they say no, I feel rejected. And then either sad or angry, right? So here's the first reason why we shouldn't be afraid of rejection. Number 1 is because a fear of rejection can cause major problems, okay? A fear of rejection can cause major problems. Just being afraid of that, of being rejected. Depression, right? If I'm afraid to be rejected and then I see somebody rejecting me, Oh, it came true, and now I feel like I am not worth anything. I feel like I am inferior. I feel angry. And depression, woe is me, right? Nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. Think I'll go eat worms. You ever heard that song? Yeah. Big worms, fat worms, juicy worms, skinny worms. Think I'll go eat worms. A fear of rejection can lead to a person not taking chances in life, right? So you don't want to put yourself out there because I might not get the job. I might not get the girl. I might not meet the friend and make the friend. I might not make the connection. I might not be whatever, right? And so it's almost better if in our minds, we think it's almost better if I didn't even try. That way no one can reject me, right? If I don't even put myself out there, then no one's going to tell me no. And I'm not going to be in anyone's power. So we don't take chances. And guess what? We just learned in Proverbs the other day, or actually this morning, you miss 100% of the shots you do not take. So you're guaranteed to fail. Fear of rejection can also lead to loneliness, which again is related to not taking chances. So you don't make new friends, you don't talk to people. Instead, you become reclusive. I have, maybe some of you have experienced this. You have relatives, no one you would know, but I have a relative that's pretty much agoraphobic, like does not go outside. Right? And I don't know what's going on there, but it happens. Just loneliness. Another thing fear of rejection can cause in men, pornography, issues with pornography, feeling rejected by their spouse, so they turn to that, which will not reject them, right? Risky behaviors. Other people turn to risky sex or drugs because they want to please people. Right? And they say, well, at least this way I'll be accepted. If I just do what they say, then they'll have to accept me. And they compromise their Christian walk. Being taken advantage of. Women will be abused because they don't want to be rejected. Men will be abused. They don't want to be rejected. And then other people, we become this is maybe where I fit into this, becoming paranoid, overly sensitive. Oh, somebody didn't return my text right away. Maybe they don't like me. You ever thought that or struggled with that? Well, that's what being afraid of rejection can do. Anxious, paranoid. So these are the problems with being afraid of rejection. Now let's talk about the second truth here to remember about rejection. The second reason why we shouldn't be afraid of rejection is because God himself knows what it's like to be rejected. God himself knows what it's like to be rejected, and he can therefore empathize, and he can sympathize. Remember all those scenarios at the beginning? You go out for a daily walk with your friend, and all of a sudden they're hiding from you one day? That happened to God with his friend Adam. You remember that? God went looking for Adam one day to go for their daily walk, and all of a sudden he was not there. Where was he? Well, he heard the sound of God, and he hid. Right? He was afraid. He didn't want to spend time with him anymore. The second scenario, right, that we talked about, you have something you could do to help your neighbor, and you know you can solve the problem, and instead you offer the help, and they say, no thanks, leave me alone. This was Jesus when he came to the earth, right? He could solve mankind's problems, and man said, no, leave us alone. Go away. We don't want you here. As a matter of fact, we so don't want you here that we're going to kill you. Talk about being rejected. You see that in Isaiah chapter 53, right? He was despised and rejected. Actually, let's go there. Isaiah chapter 53. Verse 1, it says, who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he grew up before him like a tender shoot, And like a root out of parched ground, he has no stately form or majesty that we should look upon him, right? Nor appearance that we should be attracted to him. Just saying he wasn't special. There's nothing to look at. He wasn't particularly good looking or handsome or tall or athletic. And even worse, now in verse 3, it says, he was despised and forsaken of men, meaning rejected, right? A man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and like one from whom men hide their face. He was despised, and we did not esteem him. That's Jesus. He experienced rejection on an intense level that we will not know. In Matthew chapter 11, verse 17, Jesus and John the Baptist, Jesus is talking there, and he says in 11:17, well, in verse 16, he says, but to what shall I compare this generation? It's like children sitting in the marketplaces who call out to the other children, and they say, we played the flute for you, and you did not dance. We sang a dirge, and you did not mourn. So remember that karaoke thing? And they get up, right? And you get up and you sing a song, and nobody listens, and nobody cheers, and nobody dances. Jesus experienced that. It's like we played the flute for you and you didn't dance. We sang a sad song and nobody got upset. Nobody got mourned. Or it's like the wedding feast in Matthew chapter 22, right? You invite everybody to the party, your big birthday party. You spend all the money. You get all the invitations ready. And nobody shows up and they give you weak excuses. God experienced that at the wedding feast, right? He sent out all the invitations. Come, I've got the fatted calf killed. We've got some food ready. Let's go. And then everyone starts to say, oh, please consider me excused. I got to take my oxen for a walk. Excuse me, I got a new field. I got to go check it out. I just married a wife. I can't make it. Come on. God knows exactly what it's like to be rejected. He was despised and rejected. He was the stone that the builders rejected, right? But guess what God did? He made that stone the cornerstone, right? The very foundation of everything. So God knows what it's like to be rejected. And I'm not trying to suggest that being rejected doesn't hurt. It does hurt. It does hurt every time. But don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of getting hurt by being rejected. Because if you don't tell people, if you let a fear of rejection control you, you're not going to not only put yourself out there, you're not going to put Jesus out there for others because, well, you're afraid you're going to get rejected. The more you care about the one that's rejecting you, the worse it hurts, right? If a stranger doesn't want to talk to me, I don't care that much, right? I go up and I say, hey, how you doing? And a stranger goes, okay, and they don't want to talk to me. How does that affect my day? That much. If I come home and I say, hey, honey, how you doing? And she says nothing and walks away. How does that affect my day? A lot more. So the more you love someone, the more you care about someone, the worse it hurts when they reject you. So think about that. How does God feel about people? Does he love them? Very much. So much so that he sacrificed his one and only son to save them. And literally all they have to do, right? All they have to do is accept him instead of reject him. They just have to believe him, right? Have faith in him. They have to accept his help and his forgiveness. And it will save them from an eternity in hell. And what do most people do with God? I'd rather burn in hell than accept your forgiveness or believe in you or trust you. The pain, the agony he must experience, knowing how much he loves us, how easy it is to accept him, and yet people would rather die and burn in hell than accept his help. So he knows the pain of rejection more than we do. And he can empathize. The third reason why we should not be afraid of rejection is because a fear of rejection will eventually lead to us actually being rejected. Okay? The more you give into that fear to be rejected, the greater the chance is that you will be rejected yourself. There's something like self-fulfilling prophecy. You ever heard that? Hello, you awake? Are you rejecting me? No. Self-fulfilling prophecy, which says basically, like, if I think something, oh, this isn't going to work. Oh, I'm probably going to lose. Like, you've got a game coming up. Oh, I'm going to mess up. You got a recital. You know, you play an instrument, maybe saxophone, or you do you play something. You got a game. I had a chess match the other day. I won, by the way. But if I go in there, I'm going to lose. I know I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose. This is going to be bad. I know I'm going to lose. Guess what's going to happen? Probably going to lose. It's called self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You just decide that you're going to mess up, and you're going to mess up. So if we start to give into our fears and believe then that we will be rejected, nobody's going to want to hang out with me, nobody would want to talk to me anyway, so I don't even know why I should even try, then guess what? We're going to start to feel sorry for ourselves, and we're going to actually be rejected because we think we will be rejected. And that's not what the church should be. We start to feel like nobody likes us, and it makes us angry all the time and kind of mean. And guess what? People start to not want to be around us, right? Because we're angry all the time, and they feel like they have to walk on eggshells. My usual response to rejection is anger, right? And there's a problem of trying to never be rejected by people, so you work hard, you do good, you get all A's, you do really good at sports or whatever, or instrument, music, whatever it is, and you become the funniest person you know and the most attractive person you know, and you just, right, and whatever somebody says, you always try to agree with, and you don't want to stand out. Does this sound familiar in school at all, kids? Actually, adults even, and yeah, even in work. Well, if I'm weird, they're not going to like me, so I better be careful not to stand out because I don't want to be rejected. And so somebody says, like your pastor, hey, have you ever told anybody about Jesus? And you go, whoa, no. Why not? Well, because if I told somebody about Jesus, they would think I was weird. And I can't do that. Here's the problem. You cannot always please man. And you cannot please man and God all the time. Absolutely not. In fact, the Bible says in 2 Timothy 3:12, indeed, all who desire to live godly in Christ Jesus will be persecuted. If you want to live a godly life for Jesus Christ, people are going to pick on you. And they are going to reject you. Why? Because they rejected Jesus. They're going to hate you. Why? Because they hated him. That's what he says. And if we give into the fear of being rejected, and so we don't want to be associated with Jesus because we don't want to be rejected by people, guess what's going to happen? God is going to reject us. If you deny me before men, I will deny you before the angels, Jesus said. Right? That's the thing. You can't be afraid to be rejected by man because it will ultimately lead to being rejected by God. The Pharisees were totally afraid of men. They loved the praise of men more than the praise of God, and so therefore they rejected God. And God therefore rejected them. And that is real rejection. That is not, when I say don't be afraid of rejection, I mean don't be afraid of rejection by man, because if you get rejected by God, you should be afraid of that. That is terrible. That's the worst thing that can happen to you. You don't want to be rejected by God. But here's the good news. If you come to Jesus, he will never reject you. He will in no wise cast you out. That's what it says, right? How do we handle this rejection then? You know, I think about King Saul. He was a man pleaser, right? He was afraid people were starting to leave, and he got afraid of the men. And so he quickly did the sacrifice. You'll have to read up on him. And he disobeyed the Lord because he was afraid of man. And what happened? God ultimately rejected Saul, right? Put the kingdom in a new guy's power, gave it to David. So even if the whole world rejects you, as long as God does not reject you, you're going to be okay. Right? Even if the whole world rejects you, as long as God does not reject you, you're going to be just fine. Better than okay. You're going to be wonderful. He works together all things for the good of them that love him. Your life is going to work out. You're going to have a happily ever after, as long as God does not reject you. And God will not reject you if you accept him. Jesus says, all that the Father gives me will come to me, and the one who comes to me I will certainly not cast out. John 6:37. And the last thing that Jesus said to his disciples before he ascended was, for lo, I am with you always, even unto the very end of the age. He will never leave us nor forsake us. In Hebrews 13, 5-6, it actually says that. He says, make sure, the author of Hebrews says, make sure that your character is free from the love of money, being content with what you have. For he himself has said, I will never desert you, nor will I ever forsake you. Right? So that we confidently can say, the Lord is my helper, I will not be afraid. What will man do to me? This is how you handle rejection. You keep that verse in your mind. As long as God's on my side, what can man do to me? Right? So I think in some ways, a fear of rejection of men, it leads to all kinds of sins and problems, especially if we conclude that man, or even a fellow saved man, right? Even a Christian, like if that's the source of your worth and acceptance in life, then you're going to have problems. The true source of our fulfillment, our acceptance in life, is from God through Jesus Christ. If the whole world turns against me, right? So the principle here in Hebrews is, hey, if I lose all my money, right, be content with what you have, because as long as God's on your side, he's in your corner, you'll have plenty of money for the rest of your life. You know, you'll be fine. I'm not saying health and wealth, prosperity, but ultimately, right, in the next life especially, you'll be fine. So I think if we say that like this, if the whole world turns against me and no one allows me to even buy or sell anything, which is coming, by the way, that's going to be in the tribulation, what do I say? Well, the Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What will man do to me? If my own wife suddenly rejects me, right? She finds me no longer desirable or likable or even tolerable. She doesn't want to be with me. No, this is not for real. But even if it does happen, right, and she leaves me, the Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What will man do to me? If all my children reject me and they find me boring and not worth spending any time with, and they actively look for ways to get away from me, the Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What will man do to me? If my church suddenly stops attending the services that I prepare and they find me boring or uncompelling or lazy or incompetent, most of them all leave to go to other churches, and I get fired. The Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What will man do to me? Right? If my own mother one day tells me that I'm her greatest disappointment in life, she calls me fat or lazy or stupid, and she says, I wish I had never had you. She never says that, by the way. But if she did, because some of you have had mothers or fathers that have said stuff like that. But even if she did, and as far as she's concerned, she no longer has a son, the Lord himself has said, I will never desert you, nor will I ever forsake you, so that we can confidently say, the Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What will man do to me? He's going to wipe away every tear. He will never forsake you. If I'm at a party and everyone's telling jokes and laughing and having a good time, and I work up the courage to put myself out there and I tell a joke and nobody laughs, instead they all stare at me in silence with looks of disgust on their face, I can confidently say, hey, the Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What will man do to me? If someone I know suddenly rejects me as a person and then attempts to turn all my closest friends and family against me, and everybody listens to this person so that no one wants to spend time with me or listen to me or help me, the Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What will man do to me? God will protect you. He will look after you. He loves you. He will never reject you. You go to him, he will accept you. Now, once you have embraced that, rejection is so much easier to take. And it's okay if people reject you, especially if you're talking to them about Jesus, because guess what? They're not rejecting you, they're rejecting Jesus. And that's a bigger problem for them than for you, right? By the way, as Christians, knowing that we have our acceptance in the Lord, how are we supposed to treat one another? It says very clearly in Scripture, doesn't it? It says we are to accept one another. We should not have a fear of rejection among ourselves because we should be accepting of one another. Not accepting of each other's sins. We need to help each other get over those, but we need to accept one another for who we are. Be willing to spend time with each other. And by the way, I was talking about this in Sunday school as we close. It's not enough to say nothing, like to not be mean in church when people are coming in and you want them to feel welcome here. And so, well, I'm just not going to say anything mean. I'm not going to be unkind. And instead, I think I'll just not say anything because I don't want to say the wrong thing. There's a big problem there because silence is perceived as rejection from a hurting world. So you have to accept one another. We have to go out of our way to make another person feel welcome and invited and like we want them here. And that's just kind of my thought for today. Just don't be afraid of rejection ourselves. Put yourself out there. Don't be shy. Tell people about Jesus. Invite them to church. Talk to them. God can do great things, and you just don't be afraid. And this is a hard thing to handle, but I hope you can do it. I hope you learn and grow from this. And if you still have trouble with it, it's not going to go away overnight, by the way, unless the Lord miraculously takes it from you. But I am 45 years old, and I still deal with it. And there's some of you older than me, and you still deal with it. Still deal with it. So I just pray that God would work this out in your life. If you do want to talk, come and talk to me. And I won't turn down a meeting with you.